Welcome back to Retirement Coffee Talk with Sharice Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, find us, zinniawealth.com. I hope that you do, because we offer what we call a portfolio x-ray, which is really, it's a real good look at what you've done so far. You've been saving all these years in a 401k. You've been doing these different things like a Roth, or you bought some property or something. All of this is going to power your retirement. What does it all add up to when you decide to retire? What's the paycheck look like? That's the kind of analysis that we'll do for you at no charge. 833-368-3680. All right, so Sharice, when people walk through the door and they lay the papers down on the table and they go, did I do enough? I don't know if I did enough. Are they kind of hesitant going, that's what I did. That's all I got.
Yeah. You know what? I try not to smile.
Yeah.
Just so you know, because most people do that. They come in sometimes a little insecure about, okay, because maybe they don't have a plan. They're walking in for the first time. They're sharing all their stuff with me, and maybe they saved $500,000 and they're just like, I don't know if I saved enough. And it's like a confidence thing. So when you leave our office, you leave very confident, because that person who came in with $400,000 to $500,000, husband and wife, they're collecting $60,000 in Social Security. This just happened literally in one of my appointments. And I said, well, how much do you need to live on? And how much have you been living on? They're like, oh, we live on about like 50,000. And I try not to smile. I really don't, because I have good news. My smile is all about, it's endearing because I already know they're going to be okay, and they don't know yet. So I try to share the news before they come back in for the income plan on the second appointment, just to say, let me just kind of have you walk out the doors feeling extra special right now. And I was like, in 2 years, you're going to be collecting Social Security, both of you. And, it's going to be $60,000. So that is actually more than what you're living on now while you're working. Mm-hmm. And they're like, yeah. And I said, do you think, what are you going to do with that $500,000? They're like, well, we don't want to spend it. We don't want to run out of money. And I'm like, well, Social Security cost of living goes up. Typically, you got to COLA. It goes up when inflation goes up. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that adjusts. So that's good news. And I said, of the 50,000 you live on, does that include travel? Yeah, just a little bit locally. I'm like, well, what if we sprinkle in a cruise, or what if you do a few more things? We spend, an extra $20,000. She's like, where are we going to pull that from? And I'm just like, well, we can pull it from your $500,000. That's only, and they're like, okay, yeah, we could do that, but we're not going to run out of money. So I reassure everyone that comes in, and all of our advisors are trained to do so, that, when we finish this income planning process, we're going to be able to see if you can or if you can't. I usually can do the math like right then and there, but I will wait to give that solution on that second appointment. What were you going to say, Randy?
I was going to say, I want you to look at me and say, you have enough money to live to 130, so don't worry. That's what I want.
I mean, think about it, Randy. You're right. Like, take your monies, divide it by 30 years. And if you don't make one dime, if we don't talk about cost of living, most people probably won't run out of money. Yeah. Some people might. It just depends how big of a lifestyle you live. And so, but this also is something that's very interesting. Something that I started doing about 8 or 9 years ago. I started adding a second phase into our income planning strategy, and it's called the phase 2 of retirement. Everybody has a phase 2 of retirement, and then there's even a phase 3. But phase 2, it's interesting, because phase 1 it's our go-go years. Mm-hmm. Let's spend the maximum amount we can over the next 10 years, maybe 15 years, depending on your health and how young you are. Right? You might be 60, right? So you're young. You might not have retired till 70. You still have 10 of the healthiest years ahead of you. Let's make those go-go years count and spend a little bit more. So phase 1, we're going to spend more, and most people don't realize they can. And then we always pull back the reins after the first phase of retirement. And a lot of people do have a problem spending that much in phase 1, but we release a lot for it. Phase 2, we pull back the reins. We're not doing as much. We're tired of going on cruises. You're like, I'm not getting on another plane, or I'm not driving up to my house in Ohio, New York anymore. I'm staying right here. And so we spend less money. And so the younger we are, we spend more. The the older we are, we spend less. And then there's the phase two with us, which is all about healthcare.
Well, it's very interesting when we start to break down how much people actually do spend when they're in retirement. The Bureau of Labor Statistics did a study, and they looked at younger retirees, 65 to 74, and they found that they spent on average $4,870 a month. And then when you look at those who are 75 and older, they spend about $3,813 a month. So the spending goes down. So it's kind of like a smile. First, you spend a lot, and then you go down, you spend not much. And then as the healthcare bills start coming in, you spend a little more. So I looked at that number, and I'm going to round it up to $5,000 since it's at $4,800. So $5,000 a month. $60,000 a year, $600,000 in 10 years, $1.2 million in 20 years. And I go, okay, that's where these stupid big numbers come from that they put in the financial media. You need $1.2 million. You need 1.5. You need 1.8. And you see that all the time. However, that number is very misleading because as you just said, somebody may bring in, a couple might bring in $60,000 in Social Security. Maybe it's 40, maybe it's 50. You don't need 1.2 million because Social Security, even if it's cut back by 20%, is still going to give you the bulk of what you need in income, isn't it?
It's very true. And I think that's why I always have a sideways smirk on my face, smile, because people are always going to be super ecstatic that because maybe they didn't save the 1.2 or the 1 million or the 2 million, maybe they're between that $400,000 and $800,000 range, that they're going to survive retirement unless they just go on the spending spree and go buy, boats and RVs and start doing things they're not used to doing. That would be one of the big things to derail the plan. And early on, onset of dementia and long-term care, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. So, there's so many things you have to consider when you're creating these income plans. It's not cookie cutter. What if somebody passes away, Randy, in 5 years and there's still 24 or 29 years left alive for the surviving spouse? Can we survive off that $500,000 in one Social Security check? So we're going to put that into the plan, right? Those are such important things to add. What if we lose a pension, somebody passes, and you lose a Social Security? How does a surviving spouse in a house continue their way of life? And can they? Or do we have to start cutting back? And we're going to know that before you step out those double doors to your employer, right? If you've already retired, we're going to figure it out very quickly so we can see where you stand. And we're going to have some leverage. We're going to say, hey, if somebody passes away and 5 to 15 years, maybe we shouldn't be spending this much on travel. Or we can say, hey, if somebody passes away in 5 to 15 years, you can continue to spend this much. So how are you going to know that without coming in and talking to us? We do retirement planning, holistic planning, income planning. It's got to be written. You've got to see it to believe it. That gives you so much confidence when that day does happen here in our office.
Give us an opportunity to put this down on paper. And as we say, do the math on your retirement. We'll do it for free. Give us a call. We'll do what we call a portfolio x-ray. There's no charge for this. Give us a look at our website, zinniawealth.com, and you'll see the complimentary retirement consultation button. It's gold. It's down in the right-hand corner, and you can click on that. You'll be on your way. Or just give us a call, bypass all that, and make the appointment at 833-368-3680, 833-368-3680. Now, Sharice, if, in fact, we are going to, as a couple, get $60,000 a year in Social Security, and you thought you were going to have to dive into that IRA at $5,000 a month or $6,000 a month, and now all of a sudden I only have to take $2,000 a month. Well, that means that my balance on my 401k, my IRA, is going to be larger as I get into my 70s because I haven't had to pull the money out. Well, now we run into this thing called required minimum distributions, RMDs, at age 73 and soon at age 75. You have to take that money. So now there's more there than what we thought there would be. That means more taxes. So talk to me about how the Portfolio X-ray identifies your tax liabilities and brings a strategy for that.
Yeah. So a lot of people initially say, oh, I don't want to spend as much money in the first 10 years because I know I'm going to have to pull more money out later on, which doesn't make sense to me because later on taxes could be higher. Later on, you might not be lucky enough to have a later on, right? Especially the people who went through COVID, like you just don't know. But I will say that if you are coming up with a plan, a spending plan to figure out how much to spend, it's today in the next 10 years, but also the next 20 and 30 years. And what buckets of money do we live off first, right? So if you're collecting Social Security and you have a brokerage account that's more tax efficient, and then you also have an IRA that's typically the highest tax bill you pay your taxes on, right? What bucket do we pull from, the brokerage account or the IRA? And those are the tax conversations that we talk about because we have to figure out your spending plan and then we got to figure out what the income plan looks like. But then it's that withdrawal strategy because there's different phases in retirement where you're going to pull more out of your IRA or you're going to pull less, or you're going to pull more out of your Roth or less, or more out of your brokerage account or less. There is 3 tax buckets there and they all work differently. And there is a different time you should pull from those different types of buckets. And I will tell you, as soon as we set that plan and then the politics take over, there's that political risk and it changes the plan. It doesn't derail it. We just have to maybe rejigger it and change it up a little bit as time goes. So just know that it's not a fix-all, but if you're going to have to take an RMD when you are age 73, or if you're born after 1960, it would be age 75, and you know you have to pull out 4%, for example, out of your retirement account, and you said, I don't need that. Do I really have to pull that and pay the taxes on it? And the answer is yes. You have to pull that 40 grand out of your $1 million if that's what you have saved. Even if you only need 20 grand of it, you're paying taxes on all 40, right? There are some tax strategies that we've helped our clients that we have built in once you enter that phase of life that can offset some of that tax hazard, but you have to be willing to do it. And if we get to see you way in advance before you get to this phase, we can consider other tax strategies as maybe Roth conversion strategies or whatnot. So there's so many ways you can go about it, but don't forget the plan for that day when you are forced to pull those dollars out.
Thanks for listening to the Retirement Coffee Talk podcast. If you have questions or would like to begin the process of building a tailored retirement plan, call Zinnia Wealth at 833-368-3680 or find us online at zinniawealth.com.
Sharice Rivers is an investment advisor representative of Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments can fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Financial professionals are not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Sharice Rivers is licensed in your state, please contact their office. Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. Any client experiences discussed during this show are unique to that client. They are not meant to imply or suggest you will experience the same results. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Sharice Rivers, NPN Insurance License Number 8718011.